Thank you. Thank you so much. I don't know why this always seems, excuse me, to happen to me. I I was totally on my A game, totally prepared, ready to just do what I need to do tonight, and then I got thrown for a curve. I'm just wanting to acknowledge two people that are in the chat. A woman by the name of Hawa Abdullah and a gentleman by the name of Harold H.B. Branch. Uh, Hawa and HB, they are parents with teenagers, but they used to be in my program, in one of the many programs that I did when they were in high school. And I'm choked up seeing them and just seeing who they become and what they become, and it just brings so much joy to my heart. So with that, I just want to give them a special shout out, and then you'll actually be able to hear about them later. And even before I start my presentation, again, welcome everyone. And you will see the way that I frame this particular discussion. I'm not going to spend a lot of time in the backstory because I really want to get in the crux of engaging into the dialogue. And I say that because the last two community conversations we've had, they've been so engaging and so much good have come out of it that I really want to do that justice and keep the momentum going. So with that, I will start. As we engage in historical conversations about the Black community presence in Flagstaff, we also understand the importance, future engagement of young voices, issues, and concerns for continued progress. Recognizing the significance of critical life stage of youth, particularly for young Black members of Flagstaff community, and the unique perspective they offer to local issues and development. We also recognize the importance of continuously engaging young people and their perspectives on the development of the Black community in Flagstaff. That is the issue statement that we're speaking here tonight. And I'm going to, if the policy brief, it is included in the actual chat. So I'm not going to read it all. I want to talk about it and summarize it in my own words so that you all, we can get to the actual conversation. So one of the things is we take the issue statements and we provide some background narrative. So when you're trying to frame, if you look at the data boxes and you look at the quick issues and concerns, the quick facts boxes, you will see some statistics that I included in my brief in terms of Black students being 2% of total school suspension, etc. Uh, One of the things that I really want to draw your attention to is the census data, where when you look at the last census data, when you're looking at Black populations, and then there's another category of multiracial uh, populations. I believe that there are certain individuals who would normally classify as Black that are in that. So you have to look at it in it as it, yeah, look at it in its entirety in order to come up with the relative number. So I found out, and I'm going to get to that in a second, by not being a native, you come and you have to try to figure out what's going on. You have to take the time to talk to people. You have to take the time to really understand who's doing what and for how long. And one of the things that I found that was absolutely amazing is that the city of Flagstaff has already been doing the work necessary to ascertain the information that we're here tonight to actually try to talk about, and that will go into policy and ultimately the strategic plan. And our own mayor, Mayor Coral Evans, she spearheaded an amazing committee. When you look at under the background, you have Mr. Musselman, the chief of police. You have residents from the Southside Neighborhood Association. You have Danny Neal, who was retired, a city veteran from, he ran the community center for the city of Flagstaff. You have board members for the neighborhood association. You had the Honorable Margaret McCullough, the presiding judge of the Coconino Juvenile Court Center. You had the CEO, Miss Kristant, for the Boys and Girls Club. You have the chair, Miss Liz Archuleta of the Coconino County Board of Supervisors. You had Byron Masuda, director of the Coconino Juvenile Court Center. And you had Khara Kelty, who's a clerk for the Flagstaff Unified School District and a former council member. So when you look at the people who were involved in trying to shape how are we doing, what are we doing, what are the resources available to young people in Flagstaff, you really had the heavy hitters, and you really had people who are in positions to make a number of things happen. So in this policy, it was I'm looking for the reformat name of it. It was the policy statements, policy brief committee. They came away with some things that I think is very important that we keep in mind. And if you look at it was a policy trust meeting. That's what it was. When you look at the results under family experience, economic challenges, and the general inclusiveness. They also recommended solutions that the city of Flagstaff bring back the youth commission. And under the youth commission, it was existent. They stopped doing it. I'm not sure why, but I do believe that it's coming back. And I just wanted to read to you my personal context of where we are with my perception before we get into our question and answering. As a non-native of Arizona, it was important for me not to try to assert that I was an expert on the Black lived experience in Flagstaff, Arizona. Instead, I chose to immerse myself into the subtle remnants of the once distinctive and well-defined Black community in an attempt to gain a better understanding of the rich history and the current climate as it exists in 2020. If I'm truly being transparent, and I am, the initial reaction to me was met with the squinty eye and arm's distance from key stakeholders in the Black community. Now I'm going to qualify that. Miss Deb looked at me with a squinty eye, Miss Bernadine, the mayor, they were like, okay, I don't know you guy, what do you want? Fair enough, okay, I'm an outsider. It's okay to look at me like that. And then when you ask the question why, you have to understand the longitudinal Black residents of Flagstaff have seen many people come and go. They promise you the world, they get some experience, and ultimately they'll take the next train smoking out of Flagstaff, and yet the people who've been there for a long time are still there. And I understand that, especially with the transitional population of Northern Arizona University. You have to understand, you only have those students and what we found is some faculty for a finite amount of time. And there's a constant retraining and reintroduction of new people because of that transitional state of that particular institution. One could argue that many of the descendants of the Black families in Flagstaff have chosen to leave as well. So why should I become so invested being in Phoenix? And here's this smaller town, definitely smaller than Phoenix, simply because it matters. As state director of Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated, I oversee the Gamma Rho Iota chapter at Northern Arizona University. I refuse to allow the brothers to come to NAU, get their degree, and just take from the surrounding community and not give anything back. Our culture is culture for service and service for humanity. We as an organization have a vested interest and a moral responsibility in the Flagstaff community, especially the Black community, as we are a historically Black fraternity. Now, people have asked, well, wait a minute, Warren, well, why are you guys a quote unquote Black or historically Black fraternity? You have to understand in 1914, when we were founded, there were no other options. So we make do with the circumstances of what we have. Professionally, I have worked with youth for over 25 years. There is almost no situation or human condition that I have not dealt with. Growing up in South Central Los Angeles, raising my children in South Phoenix, focusing on community empowerment, at-risk youth, and gangs has afforded me the necessary experience to change lives, regardless of their current circumstances. I mentioned to you earlier that I had two of my former students, Hawa Abdullah and HB. When we come back into the larger group, you can definitely ask them questions, and they may share their experiences as well. But when I operated and I don't anymore, the Warren J. Brown Foundation for Youth, 97% of my students graduated high school. In every single case, everyone, 100% of any kid that ever wanted to get out of a gang, I was successfully able to help them make that transition. It didn't matter if they were white, they were Black, they were Hispanic. It doesn't matter. For me, getting kids out of gangs is easy. And I will be happy to share that, but I want us to concentrate on the questions more so. And in all incidents of violence, I'm talking about gang shootings, I'm talking about where people have been killed, drive-bys, riots, race riots on school campus. Whenever I was called in to intervene in those crisis situations, I was 100% effective at zero recidivism. So what that means is if I got involved, it was going to get better. And we could talk about those strategies and why I was successful, and my record shows. And with that, the last thing that I wanted to allude to is that there was no need for me to come in and try to recreate the wheel, because it's already been done. And again, you have the document, it's in your chat. Please refer to the Flagstaff Community Policy Trust that was done in the summer of 2017. It's a beautiful thing to see that work that was done then that's still being worked on today, and serves as the basis for what we're talking about tonight. And that's it for my formal presentation. Let's talk. Khara?
Well, thank you for that. We are now going to engage in the conversation that we have for tonight. We will be breaking into breakout rooms so that folks can engage with the questions on a little bit of a more intimate conversational level. You'll have facilitators in with you who will be able to guide you through some of those questions. And just engage with you in conversation about what the experience of youth within Flagstaff is, how we might develop some policies or programs that might have positive influence on particularly Black youth within the Flagstaff community, and just keep that conversation going. So Ms. Bernadine will be splitting folks into those groups. I'm going to share the policy brief one more time into the chat. And you should see an invite come up on your screen to join a breakout room in just a second.
The rooms have already been created and individuals assigned.
Great. So folks, when you see the pop-up come up onto your screen to join a breakout room, go ahead and click join, and then it will take you directly into that room. So we'll see you shortly.
Hello, Bernadine. I'm not sure where my group window.
I'm sorry?
I'm not sure. I just got booted out of my group.
Oh, no, we're coming back. So,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Right on. Yeah, it just all disappeared. No worries.
Okay. At least they all should be coming back. Yeah, the rooms are going to close in 20 seconds, so I'm not sure why you got out early, but I'm happy to see you again.
Hello. Right on, my buddy Daniel. That's my partner, Daniel.
Thank you so much for being here this evening.
Yeah, thank you very much for hosting this and helping it.
Thank you. So all rooms should be open now. Everyone should be back.
We're back.
Ta-da!
Okay, Eliza, if you could still send me your email, like just send it to me privately through the chat, that'll work too.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Are we still waiting for people to come back to the big room?
No, at this point, everyone should be back in.
Okay.
It was definitely a lively discussion.
Oh, hey, how you doing? Good, good.
All right.
Everyone can ensure that their mics are on mute, please, at this point. Sorry, guys.
Oh, tell my bad.
So Khara, are we gonna hear what the other groups discussed?
Yes, so now at this point in the conversation, we're going to invite just a representative from each of the breakout rooms to share what your group discussed, any key points that you want to share, about 5 to 10, either key points or programs or ideas that you guys came up with that you'd like to share out for the rest of us to hear and just to get a broader sense of the conversations that happened. So if the facilitators want to share out from their groups or just let us know who your spokesperson will be, you can just go ahead and get us started.
Well, I took notes, so I'll go ahead and I'll be the spokesperson for our group. I had group one, the best group, so wanted to get that out. First question was, what are creative ways to fund youth programs in general in the Flagstaff community? We had a lot of great discussion around that. Matter of fact, I think most of our time was spent on that topic. There were a lot of great ideas. One being applying for grants, both at the federal and state level. Someone had mentioned that, certainly there's a season for that as well. I imagine a lot of these have a sensitive time commitments. Also, there was someone that had a mention of youth music. So, or any type of group where you would actually have the kids to get involved. And someone brought up the youth music thing where the kids would actually play and perform, and kind of like the Mormon Tabernacle Choir or whatever. They put on shows, they fundraise and so forth. Another idea, which actually was mine, and it was a great idea. Girl Scout cookies. I mean, we have the Girl Scouts. There's something that they sell to raise money, and they're known for their cookies, because I get mobbed every spring for cookies I shouldn't have, and I probably eat way too many of them. Also approaching businesses. So the businesses that are in the community, and certainly there's a stakeholder in the community. So we approaching them would certainly make sense, especially since they're dependent on us to provide them revenue, and of course they'll give us a service or product, but in turn we do expect them to be a good steward. So again, having businesses to get back. Other fundraising, Howard brought up a very interesting concept, or at least there was, in terms of fundraising, especially in this COVID environment, she found a theater that had an interactive theater experience, and we were actually in the process of looking through that, and it seemed pretty cool. We didn't get a chance to really dive deep into it, but it was a very creative way for the business to raise money, raise capital. David had mentioned sponsors. So for whatever event that you have, maybe get some type of corporate sponsor or group that would certainly provide much needed revenue. And then also Adam had mentioned certainly engaging people, you know, and he brought the notion, even though we're certainly, this has been a difficult economy for some, there are others that actually aren't impacted as much. They're working from home, they don't have to pay for gas, they don't have to pay for dry cleaning, they're not buying lunch, you know, they haven't really gone on vacation, so, you know, they might have additional money that they wouldn't have had in the past. So being able to tap into that pool of individuals that might have additional disposable income to donate or what have you. So Adam also brought up collaboration and partnership with other groups, you know, certainly share resources to help save money. And also, I think David had mentioned advertise and awareness. So yeah, we had a lot of discussion around that. And again, I was very pleased to participate in, as far as being facilitating that discussion. That's all.
Great, thank you for that. Who's next? Our next facilitator, or if the next facilitator could just introduce whoever was the note taker for your group. Mr. Hall.
Thank you. I was the note taker for my group, and my group, we had a very diverse mix from the youngest participant, a middle school student, Ms. Shyla Chase, all the way up to two current city employees. And the common theme was we needed more activities for our youth. Shyla started us off by saying that at her current school, there are no extracurricular activities or clubs geared toward students of color. And she would really like to see opportunities and engagement at the extracurricular level to inform, educate, and to learn more, not only about the culture of people of color in Flagstaff, but also globally. From there, Miss Warden, Crystal Warden, with the Parks and Recreation Department there in the City of Flagstaff, you know, she tied in the point that City of Flagstaff would love to see programs that are fun, free, educational, and local for the kids. So that was another thing, or area of concern, area of opportunity that we discovered that was needed for the youth in Flagstaff, especially those of color coming from disadvantaged households and being economically disadvantaged as well. Along with that, Ms. Warden, you know, suggested that this being part of her passion and her now seeing the need to get more directly involved, this is what's also needed: more city leaders, more people from the community that can be not only committed to this, but consistently committed to this, in working with the city, different civic leaders to drive the need for the programs, as well as to drive donations and contributions. We also had Ms. Shannon Anderson, who works with the City of Flagstaff, and she reiterated that one of the drivers to the success of any programs for the youth in the City of Flagstaff is going to have to come with a invested commitment from not only the civic leaders, but the business leaders in the community, as they both have the funds and resources to aid in these programs. And then Last but not least, we had Miss Marissa, who was a former student of Warren Brown's, and she was able to speak to how when you implement this program correctly and consistently, it establishes long-term relationship bonds and the desire in those students to give back to their communities. So we saw both the need for it now and the long-term possible results. We weren't able to get through all the questions, but guess what? This is just the first of many conversations. So we had a great first start.
Thank you very much.
Just before we go, I'm sorry, Khara.
No, go ahead.
And Mel, did you say Marissa Garcia?
Yes, sir.
Mel? Okay, I didn't know Marissa was on here. So I just want the audience to understand, I met Marissa as a 5th or 6th grader. I did camps with kids, and we'd go up to Prescott for 4 days and 3 nights. Marissa, if this isn't a testament of what you do when you engage kids at a young age, Marissa ultimately co-facilitated the camp for kids after becoming an adult. And she has a daughter that's actually going to college on a full ride scholarship this year. So I just wanted to put that out there, and I didn't know she was there. I just wanted to acknowledge her. I only saw HB and Hawa. But thank you for bringing that up, Mel. Khara?
Thank you. Who's next? I'm not sure how many groups we had, so.
Chris Page was the scribe.
Right. Thank you, Warren. Good afternoon, everyone. I got a chance to scribe some of the feedback that we had in our breakout group. As with the other groups, we spent quite a bit of time talking about the first one. We need these youth programs, but they're not going to run without funding. So we talked a little bit about ways of trying to be creative in regards to funding. Some of the conversation that we had was like looking at conducting concerts and festivals as fundraisers. As mentioned in the other breakout groups, we talked about grants that exist, United Way grant base that exists out there, and taking advantage of opportunities that exist there. Non-conventional methods, there are tons of them out there. We just started throwing a bunch of different ideas out there to try and figure out which would be more efficient for us and actually help these youth groups here in the actual area itself. And one important point that we talked about was partnerships. So we took that idea, that concept of partnerships and tried to expand on it. And eventually just going back and stepping back and looking at the different type of youth programs that are out there and understanding how these youth programs are actually structured from a business standpoint. From a business structure, are they actually like nonprofit organizations that, you know, with that genesis set up right there, we can actually reach out to these major corporations that exist out there and form a partnership and lean on these corporations like we've discussed earlier, on the corporations who are looking to give away money to nonprofit organizations that exist out there, because again, it helps them. It helps them tremendously because of the fact that it's a tax write-off for these major corporations to donate this money to these legit nonprofit organizations. And it's a win-win situation. And that's what everybody wants out there, is a win-win between both organizations that are out there. And again, if we look at Gore, if we look at the hospital, the major organizations here in town, and form partnerships with these guys and recognize how we can have this partnership with these nonprofit youth organizations that exist out there, everyone could win on that. So we spent a lot of time talking about the funding. We spent a little bit of time talking about the Flagstaff Youth Commission and wondering what happened. What happened to the Youth Commission? Did a quick research out there using the Google that exists out there and try to get an idea if there's anything out there on the internet related to the Flagstaff Youth Commission. And I think someone mentioned to the extent of like nothing's out there of recent. I think 2008 is one year that we saw in regards to that commission. But the title itself tells us that someone had this initiative to try and put together this commission for the group of youth that exists out there. So why don't we still have that guy running and living and helping out a group that need help in the state that we're in right now? So there wasn't really an answer in regards to how it ended and the reviving of that. So we spent a little time talking about that, and we didn't get a chance to go through the additional questions, but that's what I'm hoping we can do with this big group session that we have right now. And that's it.
Thank you, Chris. And the only thing that I would add on there that we talked about was a budget line item, a beautification budget, a line item within the existing structure and budget of the City of Flagstaff, and also maybe attaching something to a water bill, a certain dollar amount, a figure that specifically goes to youth programs. And that's also under the structure of the city, and actually could even be matriculated to the county. We don't know that, but we really spend a lot of time on that. Khara?
Thank you. Was there any other groups that still needed to report out? Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Justice.
From group 3. And so we had a lot of really great dialogue, and we actually went a little bit, we bounced around question-wise. And so we started on the question, are you aware of local resources aimed at youth and families? And that's where we began our conversation. Because I think it's really important for us to know what youth organizations or not are we working with before we can have a discussion of how do we keep funding them or not. And one thing that we came up with, one thing that we found that's of concern is that we could not really identify very many youth organizations off the tops of our heads. Colin from our group was aware of the Boys and Girls Club, and we had a few others here and there, but nothing super concrete. And I'm also a strong proponent and believer that if you ask a question that provokes another question, you asked a great question. And so from there, I actually challenged Ricky Young, who was also in my group, because Ricky and I are both NAU students. And if we are NAU students who, for all intents and purposes in this context, are in fact the youth that are in question, and we cannot identify youth resources, what does that say about the youth resources? And it in a sense answers answers those questions of equitability. And so we focused on that a lot. And one thing that we ended up talking about in terms of that was that we felt as though youth of color were not accurately targeted for the sake of equitability, more for the sake of marketability, in terms of saying, you know, we have these youth of color here at NAU, but we're not necessarily doing anything to give them the resources that they need there. Then from there, we actually moved on to the question of how do we, what do you feel needs to be changed in order to ensure continued positive development of the Flagstaff community? And from there, we spoke about one of the predominant things that we talked about was the NAU community relationship, and how in many ways it is not very good. But that if we could do that, if we could bridge that allows us an opportunity for growth, and that opens up an opportunity for community development in a way that we have not seen so far. When we got to the question about funding, we had some interesting ideas about funding, things like karaoke and concerts. But I also think it's important that when you're speaking to youth about youth, you talk to the youth. And so if we were trying to fund youth groups, I would ask the youth to contribute as well. I think that's always very important too. My mom has a saying, and I'm not gonna be able to quote it correctly, but it gets at the point that the best food that you will ever taste is the food that came from your own hands, because there's something in building it yourself. And so I would reach out to the youth there. And then from there, we didn't get to touch too much on that funding, but that's a lot of what our group talked about there. So we bounced around from question to question, but it was a really engaging discussion. And I'm happy to see and excited to see what comes out of it.
Wonderful, thank you so much. So we still have about 20 minutes remaining. And I think we can use some of this time to maybe go over some of the questions that we didn't get a chance to talk about in the smaller groups. So and Warren, you can feel free to jump in to ask any of them that you want to pinpoint. I wanted to actually go back also to a comment that was made earlier, right before we broke out. There was a member of the audience who just said that it was a shame that because we're talking about youth issues and concerns, we did not have more youth who were here. And we just want to acknowledge that we hear that comment. We were very glad to have Ms. Shyla with us in our conversation, and she shared some really good insight, I think, into her experience as part of the schools. But if we want to continue this conversation, I'd encourage everyone who's here with us tonight to share the email out where folks can communicate with us. Let students that you know that that's a resource that they can share their ideas with us. We would love to hear those, or ask folks who know youth, who work with youth, or who are youth themselves to participate in this conversation by sending an email comments, sharing comments with you that you can pass along to us, and just keeping that conversation going. So is Miss Chase still with us?
I'm right here.
Okay, so one of the other questions that we would love to hear more of your input on is just that question of, we heard from Justice that he and Ricky were not aware of a lot of programs or resources out there that are aimed at youth. So I'm curious to hear, are you aware of anything within the community that is specifically targeted towards your age group, or resources that are available for you, or programs that are fun that are available for you?
Like any program?
Yep.
Well, I used to be in Girl Scouts, but that didn't made me feel like I was like the only person of, well, me and my sister were the only people of color there mostly. So we felt like, well, I felt like singled out, I guess you could say, because I was the only person and I couldn't share really any experiences that, I mean, happen around the world, or talk about stuff. And like, they wouldn't really not understand, but like, they wouldn't feel what I would be feeling because it wasn't a person. Like, it most likely wouldn't have happened to them. Like, like George Floyd, it could most likely would have happened to me more than a person that is white or that looks a different color.
Yeah, so one of the things that you shared with our group that I want to give you a chance to share out to the broader group is, the question was talking about what sort of programming you would like to see, and you shared a really great idea about a more of an informational or self-education and social awareness group. So maybe if you can just share why that's so important to you.
Well, because I feel like a lot of people at my school don't really know about the history of like African Americans or people of color. So like a club where they would get informed about what happened in the past and stuff like that.
Great. And last question that put you on the spotlight. I know we are focusing in on you, but you are our voice of youth tonight, and we really appreciate you being here. So I'm curious to hear if there are specific things that you think need to change within Flagstaff, kind of broader, or what that sort of change looks like to you when it comes to engaging youth, and particularly, like you said, youth of color or Black youth. What does that look like to you for the city as a whole to engage you and to engage your peers?
Well, I just feel like that, like, I haven't really seen a lot of people of color my age at my school or anything, but I feel like I'm not really sure, but like, I haven't seen a lot of people my age at my school that are my color, except for maybe like 3 or 4 people.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like there should be more, even though, you know, Flagstaff is like a small town or city, whatever you want to call it, but like there's not a lot of people of color, but we can't change that. So I feel like I'm not really sure right now.
Yeah, and that's totally fine. I think one thing that you're really pointing at is the idea of visibility, right? Feeling like there's not a lot of folks that look like you or who can relate to you in the way that is really important for somebody your age. So finding ways to create those programs where you can see that there are more folks like you and engage with them, I think is a great idea and really, really important. So thank you. Thanks for
You're
being here and thanks for
welcome.
sharing with us.
Yes, thank you so much. Something I would like to add in doing the background research for tonight's discussion, in surveying the city of Flagstaff, I found out that you have the Hal Jensen Recreation Center, which is in the Sunnyside community. You have the J Lively Activity Center. It's an ice arena. They actually have ice skating lessons. They and all of these that I'm mentioning, they are currently closed due to COVID. Just so you know, I want to put that disclaimer out there. But you know, and thinking of, I learned how to ice skate on a cruise ship, South Central Los Angeles. There wasn't many ice rinks, so that when you're looking at doing something and fundraising and maybe an activity that you could include people in, just like Shyla was saying, if you have a connectedness for underrepresented populations, especially African American kids, and knowing that you can host an event where are more apt to see more people like them, I think that would be a beautiful idea. The other thing, you have the Siler Homes Activity Center, the Boys and Girls Club, which is it's still named Cogdill Center, but the Boys and Girls Club took it over in 2012 due to lack of funding. Then also the Flagstaff Unified School Districts, they have a total of 16 schools. So now that we know what those schools are and looking, and we were not able to ascertain the specific demographic information, ethnic demographic information for each school, but to find that out and at least target those kids and parents. And while we're on that subject, and there is Ken and don't tell me. Khara and Ken Kuma, they actually have a biracial child, and they don't show up in the statistics. So one of the things that came out of our discussion is that we really have to look at the children, because the parents may not always show up in quote unquote Black statistics. So we really have to look at targeting mixed race children as well. Khara?
All right, well, let's open up the conversation a little bit more to um, the rest of the group. Before I do, I want to just share something that was just shared with me, which is that Ms. Shyla is actually running for student council at her school. We want to give you a shout out for that, and we want to wish you luck in your pursuit of that. So good luck to you, and we really hope that that goes well for you.
Thank you.
You're
Well,
welcome.
the voting was yesterday and we got the results today and I got in, so.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And that's
Shayla.
that's really important. I think it's great to have someone like you who has a voice, who's willing to be part of this sort of a conversation and speak to your school and be part of that.
Because my friend, I don't know if you know, Denise Tremblesmith,
her
daughter is my friend and we go to the same school and she got in too.
Oh, that's great. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
All right, so let's open up the conversation to the broader group. I am trying to scroll to get back to where the questions were. I think the big one, because we're We have just about 9 minutes left, so just shy of 10. But I'd like to hear from folks what they feel needs to change in order to ensure continued positive development of the Flagstaff community when it comes to engaging Black youth, when it comes to engaging youth within our community in general. And what does that change look like for you when it comes to youth issues and concerns? So please, as you're, if you'd like to speak, you can raise your hand, you can just unmute yourself, and we'll see that you're unmuting so we can call on you, but would love to hear some other perspectives on that one as well.
Well,
Good evening.
I'll go ahead. Oh, I'm sorry. This is Deborah. And I'll go ahead and get started. I think that what has to change is that we really do need to listen to and outreach specifically to our students of color, and in particular to the Black students, because as Shyla said, there's just a few of them in their schools. And they really do feel isolated, and they feel alone, and they feel invisible. And so I think that one of the things that we definitely have to do as a community is to acknowledge that they exist, and then to make sure that we find ways to engage them.
I'd like to chime in with Ms. Deb's comment, and Warren Brown brought up a good point when he was speaking about the couple that had children that were considered of mixed race, and how they kind of fell through the cracks of not being recognized as children, Black children. And this is an opportunity for the city of Flagstaff and the community, because as we become more accepting of others, and we are this happens more, we're going to find more of those kids that are of color that feel like they don't know where they fit in. And I can just speak from a personal experience. I was one of those kids. Grew up in a biracial element neighborhood, and when you don't have that attention or that identity, it really creates multiple problems. So something that's been expressed from all the groups is, one, being more actively engaged, and finding, not only us that are on this call, but finding those in the community that are invested in this, that have children like this, and that quite frankly know that they are our future. So investing more in our children of color, investing in programs like Shyla has mentioned, to educate our other neighbors and other community members, and more importantly, bringing this topic to their forefront. Then they get to see that our children are more than, a pipeline to the prison system and a pipeline to the unemployment line. So definitely being engaged, having more conversations like this, and involving the youth in those fun, free, and educational activities.
There was someone else who was getting ready to speak earlier. If you can, was it Jennifer? I just saw you wave.
I just want to talk a little bit about our conversation about NAU and the community being disconnected, which we talked about a lot in our group. And I worked I was a faculty member at NAU for 5 years. I'm no longer there, but I thought a lot about that disconnect when I was there, and I very much noticed it. And I think part of the problem that also rises, and I think it's something that we don't really think about, is that when you get a lot of lecturers that don't have stable employment at NAU, it gets really hard to commit to community projects. So the NAU talks a lot about starting community projects. And so, for example, I met with the city employee about doing a historic walk, like a historic walkthrough of Southside neighborhood and pulling the neighborhood together and finding the funding to do that. But when you're not stable, it's really hard to follow through on a project that's going to take like 3 to 5 years to do that. And I've heard this again and again from faculty members wanting to start community projects, but not feeling like they have that ability to actually commit to the community. And then the second thing is NAU not giving us a break in our teaching load if we pull in community projects. And so I'm not saying that we can all fix it, but I think just even creating a bridge between the university and the community to even stress the desire to have that relationship strengthened and to actually come in with some very strong examples about how we can strengthen those relationships and pull in faculty that, in my experience, want to do more and they just feel limited in their ability to do so.
Thank you for that. Sorry, I'm note taking at the same time. But thank you for that feedback. Was there anyone else? I think we have time for maybe one more comment on a specific sort of programming or ideas that you might have to what change might look like within Flagstaff when it comes to youth concerns or things that you think need to change within our community.
Did we see Miss Grove's hand, Miss Mary Grove earlier?
I did not.
No.
Thank you. Please, Ms. Grove, if you want to unmute, there you go.
I was just going to put something in the chat. Like one of the things that I saw a couple of years ago at the Juneteenth celebration that Ms. Deborah had kind of connected NAU with the community was she had a climbing wall there from NAU. She had students that were in a summer program volunteering and assisting the people that were tabling there. She had also brought in the Flagstaff. One of the things that nobody brought up, and I don't know whether it's because a lot of times the theater programs are not free, but there are a lot of theater programs in Flagstaff Youth Theater too. But that's a good way of getting kids, working together and building confidence. And so she also had the Flagstaff Shakes, did a little scene on the stage there. So I just wanted to bring that up as a good example of NAU connection that people had brought, I think Ms. Harris brought into the programming and other people that worked on the Juneteenth committee. So, thank you.
Khara,
thank you for that.
Thank you, Mary. Khara, if I may, I would like to ask Hawa to speak. Even though Hawa is grown, she's a kid several times over, but she had a very unique familial environment, and this was in Avondale, Arizona, before it blew up, and it has become what you see. There was only one store, there was a Circle K, a lot of fields, but I would like for her to talk to about what her family situation was and the program that started, what it did for her and how it helped, if she's still on.
I'm still here.
Okay.
Well, my family, my mom was a single mom of 9 kids, and when we moved to Avondale, we were coming from a community that was insulated. We were only within the Muslim community that we grew up in, and we didn't know anybody. So not only was it primarily African American, but it was also only Muslim. So when we came to Avondale, we were the only Muslim family, and we were one of very few African American families in Avondale. Just to go fast, because I know that there's not a lot of time, several years passed, and we got involved with, I got involved with the KEYS program with Warren, which I think was called something else at first. And then through me, my brothers and one of my sisters, I think, also got involved this program really helped us. It helped keep us on track. I'm so unprepared for this. I don't know what to say really. I just know that I am where I am right now because of Warren's program. And I did want to say to Shyla, I was in a school with very few African American students for a while. But because of meeting Warren and being mentored by Warren and his influence, I developed the confidence because I was a really shy kid and I wasn't used to the lack of diversity also. So somebody like me, I don't know, I got strength from the services that Warren provided, and I was able to be in student council and to become, and I was in student council for years, and it's something that looking back on, it's amazing to me that that even happened because of the lack of diversity in that area. I can speak more if you guys are gonna meet again another time when I can like gather my thoughts, but all I can say is that without Warren's program, with Warren's program, all of my brothers and sisters we're successful. We're a tight-knit family still. We didn't get lost to any system or, we were just able to just stay, grow that strength that we needed to be able to grow and to achieve what we wanted to, what we thought we wanted to be and what we wanted to do. We were able to do that. I can say on behalf of all of my brothers and sisters who were a part of Warren's program that it is because of that program that we are even half of what we are today. So.
It's wonderful.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks so much. You know what? I am going to jump in here because we are over our time, and I just want to be really mindful of people's time. So, Khara, if you have some wrap up things that you want to do.
Yep, I was just about to come in and say the same thing. So we just want to thank everybody once again for coming out and participating in this conversation. I think you all have shared some really great insights from all different areas of life, different experiences, different backgrounds, and I think all of that is really important to helping to develop a really inclusive plan that we can share with the City of Flagstaff. So we are very grateful to all of you who have come out and participated. Again, if you have further comments that you would like to share with us, we invite you to send them by email. I will stick that email address in the chat box one more time for everyone. But Warren, if you want to close us out.
Actually, you did an amazing job. I can't say, it's already been said. Thank you, guys. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Without your support and engagement and willingness to give of yourself, this would not be the series that it is. And this is 3 down. We have 3 more to go, and each one continues to gain momentum and traction. And I just got to give it to Shayla, and just seeing her achieve that goal. And I'm glad she announced it here. And I feel like what do you call that, a gender reveal? We're doing a position reveal in her accomplishments. And hopefully, Shyla, if you do something and in an event, we will all come out to support you. Just let us know. We're more than willing to do so. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, so I think that's it for everyone. I think what was up on the screen was the next event, and you can register for it on Eventbrite. The link will be in your confirmation, and I think that's probably it. Can I just have the committee stick around for a couple minutes after everyone else leaves? Thank you all again for your time.